Hello, everybody. This is Luke with a Lukewarm Take, episode 6. Um, I'm sorry for last week not posting at all. I was busy all week. I had spring break. I went to Monday Night Raw on Monday, so I didn't have time to record. And then Wednesday and Friday, I had no internet, so I could not record then either. But nothing really happened last week, so it's fine. But this episode, it could be long. So we're just going to go over what happened this past weekend with off-season transactions for the NFL. And then I'm just going to go over my March Madness bracket because that's fun. And I'll probably get every single pick wrong. But who cares? Everybody does. Let's pull this up. So starting with last Saturday, NFL offseason kicked off with Chris Jones. He signed a 5-year deal with $95 million guaranteed with the Kansas City Chiefs. And then later the next day, I think Mac Jones got traded to the Jaguars for a 6th-round pick. And then Fletcher Cox retired from the Eagles. So great career from Fletcher Cox. Dominant career. He was always at least a top 5 interior tackle. Great pass rusher, great run fitter. But yeah, probably not going to be in the Hall of Fame, but he had an incredible career for the Eagles. Baker Mayfield luckily signed a 3-year deal with the Bucks for $100 million with $50 million guaranteed. Deserves that. He busted his butt this past year, ended up making playoffs, won a playoff game, was close to winning a second playoff game. He had an incredible bounce back season. He could have won comeback player of the year, I think, besides Flacco, just for the impact he had on the team. The team was instantly better with Baker Mayfield. Then Russell Wilson he signed a 1-year deal with the Steelers, and the Broncos are paying $38 million of the salary. This is probably going to go down as the worst trade of all time for the Broncos, where they traded, I think it was 3 first-round picks and Noah Fant for Russell Wilson, and they traded Drew Lock. Drew Lock didn't do much with Seattle, but those first-round picks ended up becoming like Devin Witherspoon, and I don't know. Yeah, I think it was just 2 first-round picks, actually. It was Devin Witherspoon, and then I don't know who Seattle's going to draft. Actually, no. I'm getting all mixed up. Broncos have their pick this year. I don't remember who the Seahawks picked 2 years ago. But, and then T. Higgins requested the trade. He hasn't been traded yet. I believe he's on the franchise tag. I'm not sure. I'm not totally sure about that. But yeah, T. Higgins requested a trade. Probably will get a trade because he's been wanting an extension for the past 2 years. Still has not gotten it. And he'll probably get paid 6 figures or $100 million or something like that somewhere. Then Landon Dickerson signed a 4-year extension with the Eagles. That's big, $50 million guaranteed. I really like the way the Eagles build their team. They build with the offensive line first because everybody on that offensive line has been there forever. With Mailata, Lane Johnson. Well, Jason Kelsey just retired. Landon Dickerson's going to stay at guard for the next 5 years or 4 years. Great deal, I think. Honestly, you could probably get more money somewhere else. And then Dion Dawkins signed 3 years, $60.5 million to stay in Buffalo. I mean, this tackle market's stacked with you need to get a tackle. I mean, it's guaranteed that you need to get a tackle. But, yeah, I think Buffalo got a steal with this too. You probably could easily get $100 million somewhere. And then DeAndre Swift, he signed a 3-year deal with the Bears with $15.3 guaranteed. This is just forming into the Caleb Williams. We're going to get this dude some weapons like they've never done before. Like with Justin Fields, get this guy some weapons. Titans signed Tony Pollard to a 3-year, $24 million deal. I like what the Titans are doing too with the weapons to build around Will Levis. I think Tony Pollard fits the scheme better with Tajay Spears. That's a great 1-2 punch. Might be the best 1-2 punch in the league now. Just speedsters. Packers, they released David Bakhtiari, which is just super unfortunate what ended up happening with David Bakhtiari. He was probably the best tackle in the league for a couple of years, I would say. And then the injuries started happening with his knees. I don't think anybody's going to end up signing him because he hasn't. I don't remember the last time he played. I think he played one game last year, but the year before that, he played no games. I don't really remember the rest, but it's really unfortunate. Incredible talent, just couldn't stay healthy. Christian Wilkins, he signed a 4-year deal worth $110 million with $84.75 million guaranteed with the Raiders. Big time signing. I'm assuming Raiders are going to draft a quarterback with this move, because why else would you spend that much money for a tanking team? Gabe Davis signed a 3-year deal worth $39 million with the Jaguars. I'm assuming that the Jaguars are going to draft a receiver too this draft. My mock draft's super outdated now, by the way, my last video. Bryce Huff, he signed a 3-year deal worth $51.1 million, and this makes with the Eagles. And this makes him the highest paid non-quarterback that was undrafted ever. It's just good for him, just an inspiring story that just never give up on your dreams. And he's getting paid a lot of money. And then Kirk Cousins, he signed a 4-year deal worth $180 million, with $100 of that being guaranteed with the Falcons. I think this instantly makes the Falcons probably the favorite this year in the division, the NFC South. I mean, Saints made minor moves. Panthers made some moves, but they're still not going to be that competitive. It's just to build more because they don't have their first-round pick this year. But the Panthers probably in 2 years, they could be competitive. Right now, I would say it's a 2-team race, Falcons and Bucks for that division. Saints are just going to be 8-9 like they normally are, and just cry it out. But yeah, I like what the Falcons are doing now. Get an actual quarterback besides Desmond Ridder. They have all those weapons with Kyle Pitts and B. John Robinson, and they're probably going to they're probably going to sign or trade for a receiver, and then they're probably going to draft another receiver to pair with Drake London. They're a scary offense with an actual quarterback. Saquon Barkley, he's finally got his deal. 3 years, $37.75 million with $26 million guaranteed with the Eagles. Eagles, scary team. Like, I'm intrigued to see, because I think Saquon Barkley will hold up with these 3 years. I mean, normally with a running back post-rookie deal, he's not going to hold up. But I think Saquon, he'll end up having a great 10-year career that will stay consistent for the rest of his career. That's just the way he plays. I mean, he does have the injury concerns, but the way he plays, he's so elusive. He's not like a power back like Derrick Henry, where I think he'll only play this last couple years of his deal that he just signed. And with the offensive line that the Eagles have, it's just an incredible situation for Saquon Barkley. I'm surprised that he ended up signing within the division. But other than that, Josh Jacobs, he signed a 4-year deal with the Packers worth $48 million. Don't really understand this deal necessarily. Josh Jacobs was down last year. I think he could stay down. I really don't know his value that much. But it is what it is. Aaron Jones, they ended up cutting him, obviously, and he signed with the Vikings for a year for $7 million. And then this is a deal I liked. Robert Hunt, he signed a 5-year deal worth $100 million, $63 million guaranteed with the Panthers. I mean, Bryce Young was just demolished all year last year with no offensive line. Panthers ended up having a great offseason, I would say, so far, because I'm going to mention another deal later that they did. But signing a tackle, Robert Hunt's very serviceable for the $63 million guaranteed. He's going to play up to that You can move him to guard, you can move him to tackle, and he can play any of those positions. So, like, later on in his career, you can move him to guard. He can play tackle right now. But I like that deal. And then the Packers signed Xavier McKinney to a 4-year deal worth up to $68 million. He's a top 4 safety. I don't really like the value for a safety with that much money, but good for them, I guess, because you just have Jair Alexander and Xavier McKinney. It's going to be a lockdown secondary. Devin Singletary signed a 3-year deal worth $16.5 million with the Giants just to replace Saquon Barkley. I'm going to assume those Giants are probably going to be one of the worst teams in the league next year, losing all these guys and replacing them with cheaper guys. But this is just to protect Daniel Jones, or if a rookie quarterback, whatever they end up with. Ryan Burns was traded to the Giants. That's going to be a scary pass rush at least. So at least that'll be fun. You got Kayvon Thibodeau, Devin Singletary, and you've got Dexter Lawrence. That's scary. I mean, that's 3 guys right there that are all Pro Bowl guys, potential All-Pro guys, and that they could all average 10 sacks a year. Lloyd Cushenberry signed a $50 million deal over 5 years with the Titans. Great center, part of that 2019 LSU team. Mostly forgotten about because he's a center, but it's a lot of money for a center. I like what the Titans are doing. Once again, they're probably going to draft a tackle in the draft. Build for Will Levis. Will Levis could be a special guy, which is the right guys around him. Eckler signed a 2-year deal with the Commanders. Commanders probably drafting a quarterback this year. Need a guy to protect for checkdowns, and Eckler can do that. Jordan Brooks, he signed a 3-year deal worth $30 million with the Dolphins. I think that's a great value for him. He'll probably outplay that value. I thought he did really well in Seattle. And then Jacoby Brissett signed with the Patriots. I'd assume he's going to be the week 1 starter with whoever they draft because they don't have Mac Jones anymore. And I think that's a serviceable week 1 guy for your quarterback. And Marcus Mariota, he signed a 1-year deal worth $6 million with the Commanders. I'm assuming he's going to be the week 1 starter too for the Commanders. And when he does inevitably get replaced, he's a serviceable back. Or actually, he's pretty much a great backup quarterback, I would say, because he could start for a lot of teams. Well, I also still just believe in Marcus Mariota. Joe Mixon, he was released by the Bengals because they ended up signing Zach Moss to like 2 years, $8 million, I think. But then he ended up signing with the Texans for 3 years, $27 million. $13 million guaranteed. I don't really like this signing for the Texans. He could have saved a lot more money. Drafting a guy. I don't really like what the Texans did, especially later on. Like, I didn't even know they traded something else, and I didn't like it. But anyway, Texans do that. Javon Kinlaw, he signed a 1-year deal with the Jets. Darnell Mooney, he signed a 3-year deal. $39 million with the Falcons. Darnell Mooney's a great wide receiver 3. So, I don't know, for that much money, it's a lot. I would have signed him for 2 years, maybe $16 million. But, I have a soft spot. He went to Tulane. But, Derrick Henry, he signed a 2-year deal, $16 million. With $9 million guaranteed. I didn't know this was going to be like how low Derrick Henry would sign. I thought it would be at least. I thought it would have been at least what Saquon got, because he's still been dominant. He wasn't as dominant as he was last year because they weren't really playing him like they should. I think he's going to fit well with Lamar Jackson. I think this is a steal. I think he'll play well with like the worth of this. Even if he doesn't reach like a 1,500-yard season, 1,400-yard season, he's still going to be a great, just if you have 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, just give it to Derrick Henry. Not much. That's probably worth what they're paying him. They wanted. Schefter said later that the Ravens were trying to trade for him during the deadline last year. They ended up getting their guy. So whatever. They ended up signing Dalvin Cook right before the playoffs because of what's his name's injuries. I remember Gus Edwards got hurt. Who else got hurt? I can't even think. J.K. Dobbins, he tore his ACL, I think, or his Achilles, something like that, like he always does, unfortunately. But I like the signing. This just makes the Ravens still my favorite to win the AFC next year. But yeah, Patrick Queen, he signed a 3-year, $41 million deal with the Steelers. Steelers defense just gets stacked every year like they always do. Gerald Everett, he signed a 2-year, $14 million deal with the Bears. Caleb Williams is going to have a great tight end room now because you're going to have Gerald Everett and Cole Kmet. And then wide receiver room, you're going to have, Keenan Allen, which I'll mention later, DJ Moore, and who else did they sign? Or they signed DeAndre Swift. So yeah, that's a great room for a rookie quarterback. It's better than what most people get, especially Bryce Young, unfortunately. So yeah, the Steelers traded Deontay Johnson in a 7th-round pick for Dante Jackson, a 6th-round pick to the Panthers. I like this move for both teams. Panthers get another guy to add next to Thielen, and Steelers get cornerback depth with Dante Jackson. Picks don't really matter to me because it's basically the same value. It's just pick swaps. Eric Kendricks, he signed a 1-year deal with the Cowboys. He was about to sign with the Niners. He ended up signing with the Cowboys to team up with what's his name? I can't even think of Mike Zimmer. That's his name, yeah. Mike Zimmer. So that's gonna be. I think I'm assuming he's replacing Van Der Esch because they cut Van Der Esch. So yeah. Ravens traded their starting right tackle Morgan Moses and pick 134 for pick 112 and 218s to the Jets. This is just cost-cutting moves for the Ravens. And then the Jets also get a guy. Mekhi Becton hasn't lived up to the hype. They're probably going to draft another tackle in this draft to protect Aaron Rodgers. Calvin Ridley signed a 4-year deal worth $92 million, $50 million guaranteed to the Titans. Once again, Titans building their offense. They're going to be a much better team than they were last year. Could be a potential playoff team. AFC South is looking stacked. Better than what I thought they would have been going into the offseason. Joe Flacco, he signed a 1-year deal with the Colts. Great move also. He's going to be the backup more than likely for Anthony Richardson. But Anthony Richardson has injury concerns, like you can see. You knew that when he was going to get drafted, injury concerns because of just his play style. So Flacco's going to be a serviceable backup. You saw what he did last year. He's probably not going to recreate what he did last year because Colts don't have the weapons like the Browns did last year. But I like it. Great veteran leadership because they had Minshew last year. Minshew's great, but he doesn't have that leadership. Flacco's won a Super Bowl, and everybody wants to win a Super Bowl. So Flacco will give that guidance to Anthony Richardson. Jonah Williams, he was tackle for the Bengals. Kind of a bust, I would say. He signed a 2-year, $30 million deal with $19 million guaranteed with the Cardinals. I knew he was going to leave because Bengals are probably going to draft another tackle this year to replace him. I mean, that's just the business of it. He wasn't really that great either. With the Falcons also signing Kirk Cousins, that means Desmond Ritter's gone. Obviously, he's going to be traded to he got traded to the Cardinals for Rondell Moore. I think the Falcons finessed the Cardinals right here because Rondell Moore, he's a great slot guy. I wouldn't even say slot service spot. I'd say he's a great slot guy. And I think he will flourish in Atlanta. Dolphins signed Kendall Fuller to a 2-year, $16.5 million deal. Great, because they needed another boundary guy. Kendall Fuller is going to work out great there. And then the Seahawks, they traded pick 78 and 152 for Sam Howell and pick 102 and 179 I don't really understand this move, honestly, because Sam Howell's probably going to be the backup there. And they gave up a lot, I would say, for a backup quarterback. And that's obviously showing that Commanders are drafting a quarterback. So whoever they draft, I would hope it's Drake May. I hope it's not Jaden Daniels, because I don't want to see Jaden Daniels there. That's scary. Eric Armstead, he signed a 3-year, $51 million deal with the Jaguars. I think that's great value for him. He's going to outplay that contract, I would say. He's going to be a great run fitter and everything you need. Curtis Samuel, he's replacing Gabe Davis in Buffalo. 3-year, $24 million deal with the Bills. I think he's better than Gabe Davis, honestly. So him and Stephon Diggs and whoever they're going to draft. Because they have a weak wide receiver core in Buffalo. And this is probably the last dance they have with this core. So let's see what happens. Devin White, he signed a 1-year deal with the Eagles. Devin White, he's fallen off since that Super Bowl run. The talent's still there. It's just the work ethic, I would say. I think this will probably end up well, and he'll probably get a big contract next year. Keenan Allen, he was traded to the Bears for a 4th-round pick, like I said earlier. Bears looking like a great weapons for Caleb Williams now. And then Marquise Brown, Hollywood Brown, signed a 1-year deal with the Chiefs. Perfect move for the Chiefs. He was hurt last year, but that doesn't really matter. These are the guys that work well with Patrick Mahomes. He's the Tyreek Hill replacement they've been looking for. They're probably going to draft another guy that's a Tyreek Hill replacement. And then they could probably they could just get a bigger body guy in the draft. That's their only weakness, I would say, is receivers. And they still won the Super Bowl last year. But anyway, Texans, this is the move I don't really understand for the Texans. I understand it for the Vikings. The Texans traded pick 23 and 232 for the Vikings for picks 42, 188, and 2025, a second-round pick. I don't like this for the Texans. Get another receiver. Tank Dell got hurt last year. Nico Collins is good, but you could have got Brian Thomas Jr. You could have gotten Keon Coleman. You could have gotten there's so many guys. Adonai Mitchell, Xavier Worthy. There's so many guys that Xavier Legate. All these guys you could have drafted at that pick. Or you could have even gone with more defensive line help, even though that defensive line's pretty great. You could always stack that. That's very obvious the Vikings are going to pick a quarterback with pick 11. I think they have. And then they'll probably pick a receiver or a tackle or something with pick 23. And then Aaron Donald retired. Quarterbacks will rejoice. They're already rejoicing he's gone. I would say he's probably going to be – I would say he's top 2, top 3 defender of all time behind Lawrence Taylor. I think he's got 4 Defensive Players of the Year awards, Super Bowl ring, most dominant defensive player during my lifetime. I'm very happy to say I watched all of his career. And just thank you, Aaron Donald, for an incredible career. So then Kenny Pickett got traded to the Eagles. Kenny Pickett and pick 120 got traded to the Eagles for pick 98 and 2 7th-round picks in the upcoming years. Eagles get a solid backup quarterback. If Jalen Hurts ends up not working out, Kenny Pickett could develop. You never know. And then Tyron Smith, he signed a 1-year deal with the Jets. So that probably means that the Jets might not draft a tackle this year because they're going to build around Aaron Rodgers, go all in this year. I think this Aaron Rodgers is probably last dance. And then the Seahawks signed Jerome Baker for a 1-year, $7 million deal. I like this deal also for the Seahawks. Cheaper guy compared to Jordan Brooks, obviously. They're basically the same player. And then rounding out this week, and the Bears traded Justin Fields to the Steelers for a 6th-round pick, which could end up turning into a 4th-round pick if Justin Fields plays 51% of snaps next year. Which it's being said right now that Steelers are looking at Russell Wilson as the starter, Justin Fields as the backup. I like Justin Fields as a player. I believe in him. I think he'll end up taking the spot away from Russell Wilson by the end of the year. But other than that, big time weekend, like just of moves. But this week is the start of the NCAA tournament. I'm not gonna call it what I probably already said it, but I'm not gonna call it what it's known as because I don't want to, just in case I get copyrighted. If I ever end up blowing up, I don't want to get in trouble. But I'm gonna look at my bracket. I'm just gonna list out. I have reasonings for people or for teams, but I'm not the biggest NCAA basketball fan. I watch it, but my knowledge is not that great. But anyway, first in the Eastern bracket, I've got UConn winning over Stetson. I've got FAU beating Northwestern. I got San Diego State beating UAB, even though UAB, I think they could end up sneakily beating San Diego State. They're actually a sneaky good team. Got Auburn beating Yale. Yale won on that buzzer beater against Brown yesterday. I watched that game while I was working, and I was just like, wow. BYU is beating, I think they'll beat Duxon, I don't know. That's why I didn't even pick them, because I can't even say their name. Illinois, I think they'll beat Morehead State. I think Drake will beat Washington State. And I think Iowa State will beat South Dakota State. And then in the West, I've got North Carolina over Howard or whatever that play-in team is. I think it's Wagner. That other play-in team. I think Michigan State will beat Mississippi State. I think the St. Mary's will beat Grand Canyon University. I think Bama will beat Charleston. And then first big upset, I think New Mexico will beat Clemson. I think Baylor will beat Colgate. Then I think Nevada will beat Dayton. Arizona will beat Long Beach State. Houston will beat Longwood. Texas A&M will beat Nebraska. And then big upset, James Madison will beat Wisconsin. Duke will beat Vermont. I think Duke is a poser. I think Texas Tech will beat North Carolina State. Kentucky will beat Oakland. Florida will beat Boise, Colorado. Marquette will beat Western Kentucky. Purdue will beat Middle Tennessee State or Grambling. TCU will beat Utah State. Another big upset, I think McNeese will beat Gonzaga. Go Pokes. They're my favorite team in this bracket. I think Kansas will beat Samford. I think Oregon will beat South Carolina. I think Creighton will beat Akron. And then I think either Virginia, I think it'll probably be Virginia that wins, or Colorado State. They'll beat Texas. And then I think Tennessee will beat St. Peter's. And then going back to the East, I think UConn will beat FAU. I think Auburn will beat San Diego State. I think Illinois will beat BYU. I think Iowa State will beat Drake. And then in the West, I think North Carolina will beat Michigan State. Alabama will beat St. Mary's. Baylor will beat New Mexico. Arizona will beat Nevada. Houston will beat Texas A&M. That'll be a big game from where I'm at. James Madison will beat Duke. James Madison's an electric offense. That's going to be a fun game. James Madison's going to be the Cinderella story for the most part. Texas Tech will beat Kentucky. Florida will beat Marquette. I guess that's a big upset. Anyway, TCU will beat Purdue. I think that's going to be an upset. Purdue's another poser, like they always are. Kansas will beat McNeese, unfortunately. But I think that ended up being a close game because McNeese is really good. Creighton will beat Oregon. And then Tennessee will beat Virginia or Colorado State. I'm assuming it's going to be Virginia. Then in the Sweet 16 in the East, I got UConn beating Auburn, and then Iowa State beating Illinois. In the West, I've got North Carolina beating Bama, Arizona beating Baylor, and then I got Houston in the South beating James Madison, and then Texas Tech beating Florida. And then in the Midwest, I got Kansas beating TCU and Creighton beating Tennessee. And then in the Elite Eight, I got UConn over Iowa State. I got Arizona over UNC. I got Houston in the South beating Florida. And then the Midwest, I got Kansas beating Creighton. So my Final Four, I've got UConn, Arizona, Houston, and Kansas. And I believe the championship game will be UConn and Kansas. And I think UConn will go back-to-back because I think UConn is the best team in the country. From what I've watched, I think Kansas is probably the second best team in the country. Whoa. But anyway, yeah, I think UConn will win the national championship. And, well, anyways, I guess looking into the future, MLB season starts this week with the Seoul series with the Dodgers and the Padres. They're in Korea. I was watching this morning. I think it was a replay of a spring training game with the Padres playing some Korean team in Korea. I had fun watching that. I'm getting giddy for this season. I'm super excited. It's going to be a fun season. Looking back at what I missed, I didn't talk about UFC 299 last week because I didn't post about it at all. It was a great card. I think the UFC's back. I've been complaining about their star power, but I think Sean O'Malley is that next guy, and I think the UFC's doing a great job promoting him. I'm super excited. Dustin Poirier, he's back. He knocked out Benoit Saint Denis. I did not think that was going to happen. Dustin Poirier is one of his biggest fans, I would say. What else happened that card? Jack Mandela, he ended up knocking out Gilbert Burns. I was super excited. I thought Gilbert Burns was going to win, and then Jack Mandela, he knocked him out with that knee coming from the clinch after Gilbert Burns is getting up after the takedown. That was crazy. I thought that would have been crazy money because I said, watch out for Gilbert Burns. But other than that, I can't remember anything else from last week. This coming week, we've got, the NCAA tournament. You got, what else? Nothing major WWE-wise or AEW besides. Actually, they have, it's Adam Copeland and Christian Cage on Wednesday on Dynamite for AEW. Mercedes Moné is in AEW. Sasha Banks. AEW's not going to be well off after all these signings, I would say. She's going to end up back in WWE in 2 years max. Let me think what else. Anyway, it's just like the best time of the year. NBA playoffs are coming soon in April. The NCAA tournament. Major League Baseball opening day, and my birthday, and WrestleMania. I mean, come on now. It's just an exciting time for me. It's my favorite time of the year. Anyways, I hope y'all have a great rest of y'all's day. Have a great week, and God bless.